Let's work on back strength. In yoga, the strength of the back body is so important. In this practice, we'll be working on 12 different poses that you could use as a sequence itself. You could incorporate it into your existing sequence and add on other poses. There are a lot of back bends in this practice, so you may want to add a few more forward bends and side stretches as well. So whether you're using this as a practice all unto itself or you're adding on to it, please see what works for you. I like using blocks in my practice, so you might want to have your blocks to your side if you enjoy using blocks as well. We'll start in downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, lift your heels, bend your knees, look forward at your hands and see if you can get a wider foundation by spreading your fingers more. Look at your toes and get a wider spread on your toes before elongating from the heart to the pelvis all the way to the heels. Straighten your legs and allow fullness in your pose. In this pose, it's just a nice warm-up for the practice that we're doing, where you set a nice foundation, you hold the pose, you allow for a nice elongation of the spine. So once again, lift your heels high, bend your knees, lift your sit bones high so you can get a little bit more curve in the lumbar spine. From there, root down, draw from the pelvis down to the heels to get a nice elongation. Enjoy the breath, hold the pose, create this nice elongation of the sides of the body. Emphasize the strength of the arms and the legs in the pose. Now come to all fours position. In all fours position, we'll come to a lunge. I like using blocks for a lot of things, and lunges especially. So as you step your right foot right between your hands and the right foot is centered, just settle yourself into the pose. Just as a nice warm up before we do more standing poses, can you press the back leg down and drop the front thigh just a little bit more? Now, if you can free your hands from the blocks to get a little bit more emphasis on strengthening the back body, interlace your fingers behind your back, open your chest, take your gaze up. With your shoulder blades hugging in, you reach back toward the left leg with the interlaced fingers. Release your hands to the blocks. Come back to all fours position and step your left foot forward. Drop into the pose. And as you elongate from the pelvis to the armpit, take the heads of your arm bones back. Take your hands back. Interlace your fingers. And if you can't interlace your fingers, just let the hands go free. That's fine as well. But see how you can get the shoulder blades to draw in toward each other, to get a nice openness in the chest as you reach the interlaced fingers back. Release your hands back to the floor or blocks and make your way to a standing pose. With your feet hip distance apart, draw your hands down toward your feet. Not all the way to the feet, because in this practice we're working on strengthening the back. And as we go too far, we get this rounding, stretching out of the back. We're contracting when we lift up. So with your hands to the shins, inhale. Maybe you can even take your hands a little bit higher. If you're feeling a lot of pulling behind the knees, bend the knees slightly. Now exhale, let your hands travel toward the floor. Inhale, lift up. Take the heads of the arm bones back so you feel the shoulders hugging in like we did in the last pose. Exhale, draw down. Inhale, rise up again. Exhale down. A few more times. Inhale, just to keep a nice elongated spine through the breath, through the movement. Rise up on the in-breath. Lower down on the out-breath. The legs stay active, maybe slightly bent, so you can keep the action very strong. Now take your hands right above your knees and bend your knees. With your knees bent, draw the tops of the thighs back. Maybe you can stay here, but a stronger pose would be to lift your arms up, to take your hands nice and wide apart, to get fullness to the back body. Take your gaze right between your hands and release your hands down to the mat. Take your blocks if you got them, only because we're going into a balanced pose. On one leg, with your left leg centered, lift your right leg in the air. This is a variation of Virabhadrasana number 3. With your right leg lifted, look back toward your right foot. Sometimes it turns out, so we want to have an internal rotation of the back leg. Bend your knee. You might find it a little bit more accessible to engage in the pose. As you bend the knee slightly, see if you can just extend your left arm forward and get your back body full, just like we did in the chair pose. Release your left hand down. Release your right leg down. Center your right foot. Lift your left leg up. Look back toward your left foot. See if you can internally rotate the foot. Bend the standing leg slightly. Reach your right arm forward. Keep a nice fullness to your breath. Keep your back body full. Have a nice ease about the pose. Release your right hand. Release your left leg. With your feet hip distance apart, just pause. Come to the forward bend that we were just in. With your hands right at the shin bones, let them travel down toward the mat. Inhale, lengthen and lift on the in-breath. Exhale, draw down. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, down. One more time. Focusing on strength in the back muscles. Rise up before drawing down, just slightly, enough to take your hands to the blocks or the floor. Center your left foot again. Lift your right leg in the air. Look back to see if you can get the leg doing more internal rotation. You can take your left hand off the block, maybe even your right hand off the block. Release both hands to the blocks. Release your right foot. Center your right foot on the mat. Take your left leg in the air. With the left leg lifted, take your right arm up. You can stay there. Maybe you can lift both arms up, release your hands down, and release into a forward fold. Take your hands right above your knees again and straighten your arms. Focus on a fullness to the back body before freeing your arms. Come to Utkatasana again with fullness and strength to the back muscles. Look between your hands. Maybe you can draw down slightly. Release your hands and come to the yoga mat. Lying on your belly. With your belly on the floor, come up to your fingertips on the mat. Hug your elbows in toward one another. On the in-breath, rise up. We're on fingertips so that as a reminder to use the back muscles, not the arms, on the lift. Exhale, soften down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, soften. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, soften down. Reach your hands straight back. Have the fingers spread to engage the arms. Lift the heads of the arm bones. Rise up. Release down. Lift up. And draw down. Lift up. And draw down. Interlace your fingers if you'd like. If that doesn't work for you, just keep your hands separated. Inhale, lift up, exhale. Inhale, reach your interlaced fingers back, rise up, exhale down. Inhale, rise up, exhale down. Now bend your knees, and with your feet facing the ceiling, with your arms lifted, reach back and come down. Now if you prefer, you can hold on to your feet. For some of us though, we decrease the use of the back muscles in that case. So find out for yourself. Can you still find strength in the back muscles as you rise up, holding onto the feet and come down? Do you find more strength as you lift up and reach back and come down without holding onto the shins or the feet? Inhale, rise up. Exhale, draw down. Come to all fours position and turn over so that you're seated. With your feet hip distance apart, with your hands to the mat, with the fingers facing toward the toes, bend your elbows. Draw your elbows in and lift the chest. See if you can keep the fingertip tops and the base of the fingers working nicely, clawing the mat with the hands. Lift your pelvis up and get a nice lift of the front side of the body through the strength of the back side of the body, through the heels pulling in. And exhale, release your pelvis down. Now come to lie on your back. With your elbows pressing Your palms facing each other. Your head pressing back, the tops of the arm bones pressing back. Inhale, lift your pelvis up. Keep a nice fullness in the front body again. And release your pelvis down. Draw your right knee in. Lift your pelvis up. Lift your right foot up. And slowly take the right foot down, the pelvis down. Draw the left knee in. Lift your pelvis up. Lift your left foot up. Find fullness in the form. Bend your knee. Take your foot down, the pelvis down. Step your feet so they're as wide apart as the mat is. Draw your knees over to the right side. After doing so much contraction of the muscles that support the spine, just a little twisting to help elongate these muscles. Take your knees up and take your knees over to the left side. Keep your feet planted nice and wide apart. Lift your knees up. Draw your knees toward your chest. Lift your feet up. Hold on to your legs, maybe your shin bones, maybe the baby toe side of your foot. Come to a happy baby pose. And if after working the muscles that support your spine so much, if you need a little massaging action, just rock side to side. And after all this back strengthening work, if your practice calls to you, move on into your practice. If that's your practice for today, then release your feet to the mat, straighten your legs, release your arms, have your palm facing toward the ceiling, close your eyes. Allow your breath to expand to the back body. To find fullness in the back body. Yet ease in your facial muscles. A very free and natural breath. Enjoy this time of restoration, rejuvenation, of a practice to strengthen the back muscles. Enjoy your Shavasana. Namaste.